Welcome to this webinar on enterprise strategy for post-COVID phase. Thank you for your time in joining this session. We would have some more participants join in as well, but I'll probably like to give you a quick introduction of the topic about the organization Quint and about the speaker. So let me quickly talk about a little bit on the topic. Now, we've been going through for the last 50 days or 60 days, we've going through a very different, if not difficult path. There were things that we've been doing which were never used to. There are things that we innovated. There are changes that we did to our life as well as the way we work almost instantaneously, which probably would have taken much more longer time that in a normal circumstances. So as organizations now are gearing up to open, it'll take them a little bit longer time to figure out what to do and how to reach the same level of business that they were doing earlier. And as per whatever polls that we see and whatever surveys that we see, it'll take at least about a year to get back to normal regular business. So during that time, what is it that we could do to ensure that we still manage our profitability, we still end up doing the regular things that we do, and how can we work together and collaborate as a team to bring more value to ourselves as well as to obviously our customers. So that's going to be the topic for today. Very interesting topic. I was not sure whether we understood the topic really, but the theme is that a lot of organizations are going through cost control. You see, obviously there's a pressure from the government not to retrench people, not to lower the, not to do any deductions. But in the real sense, we already see that in the MSME, it's been a major impact. In the small sector, been a very major impact. In an unorganized sector, has been the most affected. And if you look at from IT perspective, we obviously see no salary increases. We see less number of hires. We see control cost automatically happening, and some projects would get deferred, delayed, and some projects would get really cancelled. So as a supplier, as a consumer, we will get impacted on this particular strategy. So we like to cover some of those aspects of what the organization can still do to still add value to the end customers, so they continue giving business and we continue delivering them to the utmost quality. Let me quickly also introduce Quint, the organization. Most of you know us, but little bit on the facts. We are now almost 26, 27 years old. We started our operations somewhere in 92. That's when ITIL was also registered as a trademark. So that was one of the first best practice that we picked up and we started running with it. And obviously, as more best practices came, we picked them up and also started implementation, whether that was IT governance, whether it was enterprise governance, which is TOGAF or COVID, whether it was lean, whether it was agile, DevOps, blockchain, digital transformation, and so on, so sourcing, and so on and so forth. All these best practices basically arrive at the same end objective: is how can I add more value to the delivery of to the customer. So we've been doing that for almost 28 years now. We are a niche consulting and training company with close to about 300 consultants globally and almost 150 trainers, so close to about 450 overall. We are founding partners for three or at least two of the symbols that you see. One is DASA, which is the DevOps and Agile Skill Association. It's an organization based out of US. Quint is a founding member for that. DASA is focused on DevOps related certifications and assessments. And Lean IT Association, LITA, is about certification on Lean IT. We're also founding member of that. We're a knowledge partner. We help them create assessments on Lean, like we do for DASA. We help them create consultancy offerings on Lean for various organizations, including DASA. Moving forward, these are some of the challenges that organizations have, and we try to overcome that. So let me start with the basic one, which is organizing IT, which is the base stuff. If your IT is breaking down, your IT is not in control, nothing will happen. You can't think of digital transformation, you can't think of cost if your incidents are not in control, your network keeps going down. So that's the basic thing. That's where ITIL really helps in a big way. Then is the business IT alignment. How does business and IT work together so that IT is able to deliver what business is asking? Maybe proactively, maybe reactively, but whatever the business wants, we should be able to deliver. Innovation is a very good area. As I was talking a few minutes back, innovation happened in the last 2 months amazingly. People came out with some amazing innovative products. Like the Prime Minister was saying that we never made N95 masks in India. We never made the safety kits in India. We never had any testing of COVID testing, rapid testing kits in India. Now we are producing all of it, and we are probably comparing it with the rest of the world as well, right? Today newspaper says we are making a paper based strip test for the COVID 19, and that's done right here in one of our science labs. So this is innovation. This would not have happened if it was not pushed to them. It was not happened if there's an ultimatum to them. It's like a do or die situation, and innovation really happened. However, in IT also, we did adapt and adopt to a lot of good stuff. A lot of projects we thought will never happen remotely. We thought we'll be doomed if we don't reach office, but really work has been going on. Projects are going on successfully. Meetings are going on in a very effective way, I would say, rather than wasting time and money on a face-to-face interaction. So that has been really an impactful and effective solution, I would say. The fourth area is transforming to high performance people and high performance organizations. This is where you use a lot of best practices, probably a combination of the emerging areas like a lean, agile, DevOps. How can I transform people? How can I transform organization to high performance? And obviously, IT plays a very critical role here. Data and data science again play a big role. All the analytics, all the decision making, all the smart choices that you can predict is coming from data analytics, and you know the power of data. Google is a live example of that, how they've been using data. And last but not the least is about digital and digital transformation. How can, and again during this COVID phase, people who were already digital, they were ready to deliver digitally, were the first ones to be more successful. Online classes, if you're ready, the schools had a tough time moving from physical contact classes to no touch classes. They're still struggling. They're looking at tools and techniques which can be as effective as they want it to be, but people who are ready with it are already smoothly doing that. So I think digitalization and the digital transformation was a big role, and Quint obviously helps in all these areas. Coming to training, these are some of the, I would say, hot areas. We do training on 320 different products and best practices, but this is more in terms of what is very popular. Obviously, the top one is more on the organizing IT, managing IT point of view. Then you have some about very important like change management, changing the mindset of people. Again, as I said, in a normal circumstance, it will take a lot of time for people to change, to adapt to new things. But in the last 2 months, we saw it was either a forced change or a kind of an emergency change, but everybody followed, everybody did what they're supposed to do, and it works. And now I see mindset changing of people saying, yes, this could have been possible earlier as well, but then it took us an emergency to really figure that out. So change management is important. Business relationship management is important. Lean IT is important. CM is more on the system. The whole integration from a sourcing point of view is very critical. How the whole service gets integrated and how does it manage? It's still catching up. People still don't know the importance of CM, but it's a very strong area when we will see a lot of digital and CM working together. And DASA, Agile, blockchain is coming up. These are some of the hot areas. So that's with that, I complete my quick introduction about Quint. I like to quickly introduce my friend and our consultant, Sandeep. Now, Sandeep has been associated with Quint since 2005. We started in India in 2004, so he was one of our senior consultant who did assessments and implementation on ITIL. And as we grew and as we moved to other best practices, also moved. He moved to COVID, then he moved to audit, which is where you see CISA and CISM. Then he moved to advanced modules in ITIL, whether it was V2, then V3, then now 4. He also moved to lean and agile and kaizen and how the whole structure can really help the organization together. and also the enterprise architecture. So it's got a very good view of the entire spectrum of best practices and how they collaborate with each other to really bring value. And today we are trying to bring some of those experiences that he has gained working with organizations, especially on areas like lean and agile, and to see how that can really impact in this changing time. So I'd like to now hand over my control to Sandeep. And before I do that, just a few logistical uh, points. One is this session is getting recorded, so we'll share a link with you. So you can take your notes, but don't need to take any snapshot because Neha, our marketing person, will who's worked on this quite hard, will give you the access probably in a day or two. Second is there is a question pane you see. You can put in your question as they come. Don't have to wait till the end. We will, if they are basic questions, we will answer it right away. If it's an interesting question and needs an answer, then towards the end, Sandeep will pick some of them up, or I will state them to Sandeep, and and then we will answer them. If there's any question unanswered, we will, because of the time or because it was not in scope, we will still do that on one-on-one at a later point in time. And this is a listen-only mode, so we want to keep it more interactive. So there'll be some polls in the meantime. And if you have any question, there is either a chat, which you can chat with people, or with me, or with Sandeep, or you could put a question. If it's a question, I would request you to put it. If you're not able to hear properly, please put it in the chat also. We'll try to go slow. Or if you still can't hear after repeated attempts, you might have to log out and log in. That sometimes helps in case of an issue. So thank you so much again for your time, and I hand it over to Sandeep for his session. Over to you, Sandeep. Okay, Sandeep, you're still on mute. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. And are you able to see my screen as well?
I can see your screen as well.
Okay. Thank you, Sunil. And welcome all to this session. As Sunil explained, that this is going to be a bit interactive. So let's find out, first of all, the way Sunil described the situation. How are we affected with this situation of COVID-19? And I would request the first poll to be conducted. The fact is, as you answer the poll, you will realize that many of the organizations are yet do not really exactly have an idea how much they are impacted, but at least they do have a first-hand feel or a gut feel how much impact has been. There are organizations who have been impacted massively because they cannot really conduct a business in a remote fashion. And there are fortunately few organizations who already have been conducting business remotely for 80 to 90% of their work. And we have both sides of the spectrum when it comes to different organizations. And I think it will be good to see a picture of how do we stand together within this room, that how are we doing in terms of the overall impact, and how we can use today's session to either reduce such impact or mitigate possibilities of such impact. So do select the appropriate choice, and I think Sunil probably will help us to know exactly what was the answer for the poll. The situation in terms of such a pandemic, where probably once in a lifetime people face situations. I mean, somebody who still refers to this right from 1920 or World War. All the references are typically 5 decades, 10 decades, 7 decades old. And I think this is also for many of us once in a lifetime situation. And obviously, this also is a learning for the people who are early in their age to be prepared for any such eventuality in the future. But the fact is that first time, every organization, big, small, medium, every person at whichever layer within the organization is working or she is working have been impacted in a big or small way. And that is one of the reasons why organizations need to have a strategy to deal post-COVID-19 situation. And when I say post-COVID-19, it's not just about lifting of the lockdowns, or it's not just taking out the shelter-in-place orders, or it's not just the ability to go to place of work, but it also deals with how organizations should be able to come back to normal, or as we like to say, the new normal. So
Okay,
please go ahead and share the poll results.
yeah. Okay, so we have the poll results. It's quite interesting. No impact is what 23% of the people feel, that it will have no impact because probably they are into delivery or support and that's going on even remotely. 5% feel it will be a positive impact. They will do more business than usual, which is also interesting because that's a positive spin. 36% of the people feel that the impact would be between 10% to 30%. So 36% feel it will be 10 to 30. 23% feel it will be 30 to 50% negative, which is a high amount, and 14% feel that the impact overall to their business would be more than 50%. So we've got a mix of people because, as I said, 23 people feel no impact, 5% feel positive, 36 feel 10 to 30, 23% feel 30 to 50, and 14% feel is greater than 50.
Thank you, Sunil. And obviously, I mean, if you realize, thank you for sharing the poll. If you realize, almost more than 50% of the people feel one way or the other way they will be impacted, and about 25% to 30% of the people feel it will be positive or probably no impact. I mean, I fully agree with the fact that though it looks like a doomsday picture, there is always a kind of silver lining to the cloud, and we'll see how that's also going to work for us. Sunil has already spoken about the background of the situation we are in elaborately. I think if you look in terms of the overall Indian market and its GDP position before COVID situation, we're talking about a $5 trillion economy. And now that has been readjusted. And if you were seeing yesterday's PM Modi's address, it talked about self-reliance, it talked about ability to be in a position of a partial or semi-extended lockdowns for longer period of time. But everybody has looked back at the current growth rate, new growth rates, possible targets, possible new projects, and everybody is readjusting what they can and they cannot do. Innovation will be the way of life, and people are going to look at this time of crisis in a very difficult situation where the cost cutting and cost structuring and cost restructuring will come in play. Discretionary IT spending will be completely slowed down. It will be only probably spending on the mandate spending. At the same time, people will look at their suppliers, their outsourcing, the way it is done, and how they can get the best value out of their suppliers and partners. And in a way, it will be, as I said, new normal. And I'm just looking at one of the news last week where one of the Indian conglomerates decided that 70% of their staff would continue to work from home for almost next 2 years. So new definitions of normal are coming up already, and we will see those coming around us, not just in the IT sector, but in every possible sector we can imagine. And this, of course, raises the question that this new era, what kind of impact would it bring into individuals and organizations? And obviously, there are multiple dimensions which will come in play because it is not just internal IT, it is not just your suppliers, but it is your entire organizational structure which will come under the changed circumstances. And it will impact at least in 4 to 5 different dimensions. I mean, information and technology is one of the dimensions which will get impacted. The way organization has been handling information, the way technology was used to handle the information will undergo change. What kind of processes we are currently using and the various value streams defined by us, they will undergo change. It will also be important to understand that not that we may have a reduced workforce, but we may have a same workforce at reduced level working in a very different delivery model. So that will also impact the organization structures and people who are operating within. And obviously, our partners and suppliers will also come under a tremendous pressure. If you are a partner and supplier, then you will come under tremendous pressure from your customer side to get best value for money. And then there are many other angles, additional aspects which we have to see, such as political or economical, social, and those dimensions will keep changing, and they will keep getting redefined as the time will progress. So this is a very critical time to see and relook at what things we have. If you look in terms of, before we move to information and technology, we just want to quickly look at, first of all, what kind of best practices are around and what are currently being used, and which one of these you think can be really managed, who used to manage the transition, where it will allow you to easily adapt to change circumstances.
Okay.
Because,
So, Sandeep,
sorry, yes,
while the poll is going on, there's a request to speak a little louder because I think the overall
a little
throughput is
louder.
coming.
Okay,
Yeah, this is better. So,
sure. Is this
while we
loud
are
enough?
doing, yes, yes, yes. So this is perfect. So,
Okay.
please, guys, please go ahead and do the vote so that we can use this in some of the points as we go forward. Thanks, Sandeep.
Sure, certainly. And as a matter of fact, while you're working on the poll, I mean, as simple as entering the premises, which was completely a mundane activity or a very usual activity, you will see that it has gone under change. Not only just there are going to be social distancing measures in place, but swiping the card or using a thumbprint scanner or anything which had a touch economy, that completely will undergo change. Things will change right at the doorstep and even before you begin your journey. I mean, it is good to know that we must wear masks all the time, but how many of you have really tried wearing the mask continuously for more than 4 hours and see that it kind of also impose a kind of suffocation and also an irritation. And if you have to do it every day for next 1 year, it has got its own huge impact. There are things which we currently are not used to, which we'll eventually get used to. I mean, people across the world have done this in the past. There are plenty of examples where people have been using masks for years because that's the way of being and that's the way of life when the safety is involved. But still, we are learning. It's a different generation and a different method in which we must be able to survive. So, over to you in case you have shared the results.
Yeah, the result is available. So 44% feel that one of the most best used practice would be remote collaboration. So I think that's interesting. And I was talking about SAFe earlier. So SAFe uses a very different way to collaborate in an agile way. So 44% feel, 22% feel agile way of thinking, so which is also in line. 19% feel the digital way of working, whatever digital, as you say, the non-touch thing. So we've got scanners which you don't have to put your thumb in, you just have to kind of wave in front and it catches. So it's beautiful. There are companies already making them. 7% say change management and 7% say lead. So top is remote collaboration, then agile way of working, then digital way of working, and then change and lean. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sunil. And I mean, and true, if I see the way organizations are restructuring themselves and the amount of work which is being carried out remotely, remote collaboration is one of the most important aspects. And as a matter of fact, some of the technologies also contribute to the remote collaboration. For example, if you think about lean way of working, lean focuses on the elimination of waste and tries to add only value-added activities in the process streams. And that way, it will eventually contribute to the way we collaborate and get more work done out of the same level of people. So some of the challenges which you will see, I mean, the one which is obvious and we must start focusing is that working from home is going to be here to stay. And this itself presents few challenges. And those challenges are not only in terms of the way the security would be, but it may start with the remote access. I mean, today, if you think about people who are trying to use remote access, today they may or may not be using multi-access devices. Today it could be still simply VPN, but there would be certain aspects in terms of security where you might have to have dual authentication. You might have to use more number of devices to make sure that the services which are consumed from home are absolutely in the trust environment. It was easier to have, I mean, just consider probably an organization where you have ODCs or customer dedicated sites within your organization. How would you do that now? These people working from home, how can you establish the same level of trust? What kind of verification mechanism would have to be in place to ensure that you are still having the same secure environment? In terms of security at home, it was easy to think about the security at workplace, right from your screen, how it has to be protected, or how your workplace will be protected. But when you're allowing devices like bring your own devices or bring your own laptops and work from home, we have to rethink the way security has to be implemented. The way, if you think about simply the patch management. Now, think about this, that when people were on your intranet and when you're rolling out patches of security day by day, internet bandwidth was not much of a concern and compliance was not normally a big issue, though you might have always 3 to 5% of compliance issues. But the moment if you consider 70% of your staff is working from home, then that patch management itself will become a huge issue, because the way you would want to push the patch and the way the number of internet issues may arise to make sure the compliance is achieved can be very, very large. New threats and vulnerabilities will emerge and they would require different strategy. I was saying, I mean, just think about so much of discussion going around a simple remote sharing app, which was so popular before without naming it, but you know that umpteen number of hacking and different kind of attacks have been done on a simple one software. And it's not going to be that it is today it is that software, tomorrow it could be something else, and day after it could be something else. So people have to be alert and people have to be very sure of what kind of threats and vulnerabilities will emerge for the various aspects of information and technology. One of the things which you must realize is that at the end of the day, the technology which has been created so far, they did consider the organization working in a normal mode. So today's technologies, I mean, if I think about just take an example of a user mode technology which I use, the UPI-based payments or payments which are doing from your standard, any of your phone apps or your wallets. Those wallets, I mean, are today failing to do those transactions which I normally wouldn't have even thought twice. I mean, today I'm paying right from my milk to grocery to vegetable and fruit vendor, everybody through UPI payments. I never knew that today we have restrictions from the bank that after 10 UPI-based payments within 24 hours, you cannot make the 11th one until you actually pass the 24th hour. Now, of course, this restriction in the past wouldn't have mattered much because probably people were doing less than 10 UPI payments on an average and they wouldn't have faced this. But in the current situation of lockdown, the number of UPI payments have gone up. So technology itself has its own limitations, which are slowly will become in the light and they have to be dealt with. And it's not just that the volume of transactions or the way internet bandwidth usage, if you see, has gone up. Better and better bandwidth has to be provided. More secure bandwidth has to be provided. You have to do bandwidth shaping. I mean, it was okay if in the past you were using a secure line, a VPN line to work from home. But now, on the same, you have to understand that the person who is working from home, he or she is going to have the usage of the same bandwidth where probably his brother is watching Netflix in one room or his son or daughter is watching Amazon in another room and somebody else is browsing something else. And one side there could be another family member watching the streaming video. So the same bandwidth will be retasked. And then are you really going to have a video call going on with your client and using the same bandwidth? It would suffer because there will be no bandwidth shaping software available at your home in the router. I mean, there are going to be user-end issues. There are going to be issues related to security, usage, availability, trust, and those need to be dealt with. I mean, there are more than one way one can address this. I mean, obviously, there are new technologies which are, as Sunil was saying, in terms of a low-touch economy or a no-touch economy will create. Automation will become definitely a very important element as a design consideration. Not only automating the current things, but future, whatever you build in terms of information and technology access, you will think about automating it more because the total number of resources which will be required to manage will continue to go down. Lean, Agile, and DevOps best practices will be implemented just to ensure not only are doing the waste elimination or you're trying to build a best value delivery mechanism, but at the same time, you have got one single view or the microservices view of the way you are currently operating. It will become important that the way you access today the information with ease will undergo a lot of different aspects before it can be changed. I mean, I was just thinking about a change management process which we normally use, which has got the standard RFC method, and people are used to having a CAB meeting, and people are used to having emergency change which are approved of a CAB. But here, the number of changes which will happen, one of the organizations which I'm working with, they told me that because the delivery methods of their clients have changed, the number of changes itself has tripled, and not just double but tripled in just last 6 weeks. And that has forced them to conduct the CAB more often, which was probably happening once in a week. Now it happens every second day. Now, such changes will come, and they will come not on account of because you are making changes, but because the environment is changing, the way the customer is receiving the services is changing, the way you are delivering the services is changing. Now, obviously, though you would see in my few slides ahead, the approach really doesn't change. And people have to understand the way we want to go is first discover what are your current objectives, and then undertake the strategy mechanism where you'll find out you have to have a strategy which will service your current objectives. And frankly speaking, the first thing which comes to your mind is at the end of the day, you are customarily with customer relationship, you are contractually bound to customer to deliver certain obligations. Probably the journey of the discovery will start in first knowing all your obligations. What is it that I'm committed to deliver? How would I manage my obligations within the current state of resources and current state? What should be my objectives today? What kind of strategy I must adapt to so as to ensure that I meet all my obligations as a service providing supplier to my customers and ensure that my strategy services it. What could be my current priorities? How are my current baseline in terms of my productivity, in terms of my current usage of technology, in terms of my new adaptability to new technologies? And then I probably need to identify what are the changes required and eventually then undertake the team education, set up a roadmap, and then continue to improve as we go forward. And logically, if you see this approach will continue to remain in any of the directions which you see in future, and that's why I'm kind of repeating that diagram as you go. But let's look at the probably the another thought which comes to my mind. If you have looked at information technology, the value streams and processes are becoming much more important. I mean, what's discretionary and what mandatory had a set of definitions yesterday, today those definitions have changed. Customer was seeing certainly a value in certain aspects before. You will be not really surprised to see that the customer also itself is changing the definition of what is of value to him. Not only that, it will continue to get redefined over a period of time as progressively we will move to the next probably 18 months horizon. Because today customers themselves are also not sure what is it that their customer is looking out for and in what form and shape would they require it. I mean, just think about it. I was looking in terms of as the government is opening lockdown, one of the things they say that, okay, it's okay to open the standalone shops. But then they gave responsibility of maintaining a social distance to those shop owners. And of course, people really tried sincerely by putting circles and cross marks at 1 meter distance. But that completely went haywire when people were thinking after so much of lockdown when they came out. Complete social distancing was forgotten, and finally it was the shop owners who were blamed, and then it was eventually they had to be closed. So I'm saying the same way there is going to be plenty of backlog of work. There is going to be plenty of important aspects of your customers which have been pending. There are services which have been paid for periodically and not being consumed. So there are going to be redefinition of what customers will think of a value as a service provider or end customer itself. Existing value stream will undergo complete revisit and restructuring because you probably will be considering those activities which were contributing to value would have been considered as a waste today and for maybe continued period of time. And then if you think in terms of the different value streams, I'm already seeing new value streams which are being emerging and being discussed. One of the example which I like to give is that reporting, which is considered to be definitely, I would say, important aspect of a service delivery and review. Customers have requested my customers that we are not interested in voluminous reporting. First, to completely streamline your reporting and minimize the number of reports you're sending to me. The first thing the customer said, we do not want to get from you every day 10 mails and 5 reviews and 3 PPTs. We are not interested. Can you just bring it down to one single A4 one page? So you might not, and that wouldn't have been probably acceptable before, but when going gets tough, tough gets going is what we were hearing. But now it is practically seen. Customers are going to come back to you and probably give away things which they insisted before and going to demand new things which they didn't ask before. And that would probably either increase your work or decrease your work, or it may simultaneously do both. And that's why it's important to understand that we need to look at our existing processes which may have some mandatory actions, which may have some discretionary steps, and which one to now continue and which one to hold on till we have more clear picture. It is also going to happen that the process actors which have been so far doing things in a certain fashion, they would undergo change and new process actors would emerge. As a matter of fact, new different roles and responsibilities will come, different hierarchy structures would get defined, because at the end of the day, people would want to do, or rather ensure that we are in a position to automate more and get more out of the same staff or most or less reduced staff. But at the same time, one of the things which is very vital to see that these processes are going to undergo change, not just because we are looking in terms of value, but the way we are going to deliver also the service is going to change. I mean, just think about I'm just giving an example, completely outside the IT. I mean, as simple as the process of getting a milk, which was previously delivered to your doorstep. Today, in this situation, I have to go and pick it up down right at the entry gate from where we pick up the milk and bring it back. And I do get the totally, how should I say, the monthly bill on the phone and paid by the phone. But simple thing is, even after bringing the milk in the house, you still might have to wash it with soda water and probably make sure that it's sanitized, and then again it has to be opened and then it has to be warmed up. Simple process of getting a milk in the house now takes 35-40 minutes, which could have been taking just open the door and get milk back in 5 minutes it could have been done. So every service delivery take new about this. People were called today, yesterday. Called like any time you go for the standard air travel, used to be called at least 1.5 hours or 2 hours early. Say 90 minutes earlier, people were screened before they are going to board a train, and there are so many processes which have changed. The same service delivery processes will change, not just because the way your processes, the way they integrate with other processes will have changed. The number of output which you will get before, I mean, as simple example as backup. And I have been told one of the organizations which I'm working with longer than normal and is almost 4 times higher the time. And then I asked them really, I mean, what has really changed so much? They said that there is so much of work which is being done in the cloud, but there's so much also work which is being done outside, and just syncing those laptops before taking the backup has added almost enormous amount of delay in simply the syncing procedure for people who are working from home. Though they are working in cloud environment, there has to have some local amount of syncing which has to be done, and some sessions have to be logged out before the backup can be taken. So, I mean, and because of which the entire job turn or the structure in which the jobs were fired, that has to be completely changed. So things will change, and of course we need to look at what kind of risks which are arising because of change, or when the value streams are being defined or the processes are being changed, what would undergo change. And we need to probably make sure that we are in a position to redefine the value, and we are in a position to understand what are the processes which are going to change, what would undergo change, and what would undergo change. And we need to probably make sure that we are in a position to redefine the value, and we are in a position to understand what are the processes which are going to change, what would undergo change. And we need to probably make sure that we are in a position to redefine the value, we can continue to apply lean thinking, elimination of waste. We have to ensure that these new value streams will have a complete homogeneousness and very agile way, because the customer definition of value is not constant. The agile way of working is the only way that you continue to work with customer in conformance with his current requirements and changing requirements, so that the product or service delivery which you do will continue to match his value expectations, and that's very, very critical. Processes definitely will become leaner, and also they will become thinner and highly adaptive. I mean, if you think in terms of the simple couriers, I was just looking at the way Amazons of the world or the Flipkarts of the world are changing their delivery models, and the kind of precautions they have to take, or the kind of extra time for delivery they are taking, or the way the cash on delivery, how it is being completely stopped. I mean, it's going to happen with us. Just do not think that because we are in the IT industry and we do not deal, our customers are finally servicing certain set of customers. And if Amazons of the world are your customers, then obviously they are going to ask you to change your IT to facilitate or have certain new skills or have certain new technologies which will facilitate their customers. And that would impact automatically your ability to deliver the exact same value to your customer. So they have to become very adaptive in design as well as delivery, which is very important. If you come to the third dimension of organization and people, first and foremost, not just because of the reduced staff or the less amount of staff, but there's going to be huge. I mean, look at yesterday's report. We are talking about comparatively 7.3 unemployment ratio to suddenly a 23.5 unemployment ratio, and almost about, if I'm not wrong, close to about 20 million people in the IT industry also being impacted. I mean, obviously the challenge is going to be not about your organization may have reduced staff, but we also may find that retaining people or asking the same people to do new set of work also is going to become challenging. I mean, we do talk about the way we have to, do multi-skilling of the people. But when you think in terms of the way the processes and value stream will change, different levels of approvals and authorization will come in play. You will have to have multiple more mandates to ensure the security compliance which is desired. New RACI structures will get defined because of the increased responsibility. It will be expected for you. I mean, yesterday's discussion on the labor panel I was looking at, almost, if I'm not wrong, 17 states have changed the labor laws in such a fashion, though it has got nothing to do with the IT, it's a plain labor law for the day-to-day workers. But now everything which was protecting the labor has suddenly gone out of the window. That means you have to do 12 hours of work for which you may or may not be entitled for the OT. And there are so many things which can go against, and there's going to be a huge, I think probably the labor unions are waiting till end of the time of the lockdown, and it's going to be a huge hue and cry. But as we will see what's acceptable or what's the norm, that is going to change. And that is going to happen within organization. That is going to happen within the different people when they interact with each other. There is going to be a huge readjustment to the behavior and attitude, the way people would be coming across each other. The amount of empathy which would be required to understand, or the paradigm shift which is required to understand the way people deal with each other. There is currently, if you just step out, one of the things which I just remember, one of the persons saying, it's first time in my life in a funeral, I couldn't hug the person to just console him, and it felt so awkward and so inappropriate. But that's the way of life. I mean, you really forget your hugs and earpieces and thank yous, and it's all going to be namaste. And does it really take a toll on us as a person? And the answer is absolutely yes. I mean, when next door neighbor, which would meet me every day, today we don't even talk to from the balcony of each other very closely. That's kind of pain which you're going through, and that's going to happen when you're going to meet your colleagues. It's going to put a lot of social difficulties in place, and that requires a lot of support. They require complete re-understanding of how people's mindset work, because it's going to impact productivity eventually. Multi-skilling and T-shaped profile, definitely it is going to happen that you need to make sure that the people would be more and more likely to be retained if they are multi-skilled and they are probably T-shaped. T-shaped is an example where you have achieved great in one skill and then you are better in many other skills. Or now we are really not talking about even T-shaped profile. We are talking about pie-shaped profile where you have two areas where you have deep skills, and then the rest of them are kind of horizontal in the shape of pie. So you're deep in at least two areas. And as a matter of fact, I was seeing yesterday, we are now talking about comb-shaped profile people, like your hair comb, where you have more number of abilities which you are deeper in, and that's what is going to be required. So multi-skilling is going to be definitely become a mandate. Recruitment and retention policy would require a lot of changes because the way you would want people to ensure that they are recruited in the first time and they will continue to support and the kind of agreements in which we may have with them will definitely require a relook. And at the end of the day, rewards and recognition mechanism, the way you will want to encourage people to undertake work, the way you will want to ensure that they continue to do their work and do better. At the same time, their home life balance doesn't get affected. I mean, I was talking to one of my friends and I was saying, hey, I'm really working from home. Isn't it much better for you now that you really can just work for 8 hours and then really don't have to really leave for office and come back? Because he used to travel. I wouldn't name the city, but it's like southern Indian city where he literally used to travel 3 hours a day to go to office. And I said, what a huge saving time for you, buddy, and it's really going to be very happy because you're neither driving either way. He says, Sandy, to tell you the truth, I used to work 8 hours a day. Now I'm working almost 12 hours a day, or sometimes 14 hours a day, because my work is kind of splitting across multiple time zones. I do get time in between multiple meetings, but it's almost extending to 12 hours, and it's much more exhausting because explaining people or talking to people without having an advantage of being visually connected, even if it's a video, but not using a simple whiteboard. He says that itself creates a lot of difficulty, though we have fantastic collaboration mechanism, but still I'm missing it and I'm losing much more time to explain the same thing, taking longer time. I mean, simple things would change and people are not still used to it. They would require amount of support and counseling. They would require an amount of handholding and education. And it's just not people in junior ranks. It's people in the senior ranks also. How to deal with this itself is going to become a challenge. And there also you probably need to understand that maybe it will be getting driven by better policies, or I at least expect a higher autonomy to the ages, because central policy and command and control is not really going to survive. It's going to be more driven by the local authority, which is probably can see and understand local issues and take their own implementation of policies and processes. It will require multiple people with T and pi shape profile peoples. We need to have small teams. It is going to become of paramount importance to understand that to maintain a product or service, now with the reduced staff, we probably will require to have small, smart microservices team which will understand right the entire concept right from design to develop to deliver and to maintain and to improve. And that's why agile way of working, that's why DevOps will come much, much bigger way in health. It will require to define the holistic approach. And people would require a large investment in behavior, attitude, culture shift. I mean, I was talking to people who were basically, let me say that they are the people who are having heavy customer interaction. One of them was saying that today customers' patience have really gone down. In last few days, they're saying that first of all we are working with a reduced staff, but the amount of inconvenience caused for people because our services are not working, and it is as simple as checking their internet connection or telephone connection, where they were of course dealing with their internet connection was important. And they're saying that we cannot send a service person because the area is under lockdown and then their gated communities do not have permission, which will happen within 5 minutes because we have engineers in every possible location where we're servicing, but they just can't travel and that's not possible. And it's very frustrating to explain them. And we have much, much more unhappier customer now. So it's going to require a lot of shift in people's mindset. It's going to require a lot of shift in the way service culture was defined before and the way it will be defined in the future. And we still need to baseline it and see where we really want to go from here. Your partners and suppliers, they will undergo some different mechanism because not only you have new partners, you'll be surprised if you are a service provider, how easily your customer has moved to another service provider which you wouldn't have considered yesterday simply because of cost. And it's going to happen to all of us. And it's going to already happen to you as a service provider, or you might have done this yourself to your own service provider. Because definitely underlying economical pressure which is being built, that is definitely going to make sure that new suppliers are on the board. Classification will change. The way you will be premium supplier before, now you can be one of the many. New, young and smart, how should I say, below the belt curve, people are going to try to push different technologies and making sure that they adapt to the new technologies and new partners will come in place. Existing contracts, I mean, I'm just looking at one of the business case currently for one of my clients, wherein the business case is being made on the basis of the performance of the current partner's support during the last 3 months. And it's being evaluated that how are these partners or suppliers are able to help us during such emergencies. That means how was their BCP and DRP, and can we trust these partners in future? Because what we are facing today, what if I face the same thing tomorrow? And the expectancy is that those partners who actually were excellent, or those partners who came out very well, or those partners who went beyond the call of duty, they are the ones which are getting, even the rating, the way people will be rated will undergo change. The definition of contingency support will change. The way partners assurance will be required also when they're going to go change. There will be different conditions of workload and different equations in terms of the way purchases will be done, not just of services, but the way negotiation would take place in terms of the support, in terms of support during such a disaster, in normal way of operation also is going to go change. And also you will realize that people would look for not just the new service partners or product partners, but people would look for the first choice, they would ask existing suppliers to come up with a way to support them in future, because now not only the customers, the way they consume the services have changed, not only because you, the way you're providing services is going to change, but the mindset of the people in terms of what's expected out of that service also is going to change. And this is forcing a lot of requirement in terms of how people would not only just press a word, but there will be very stringent audits. And one of the customers which I'm working with, he has already said that we already have new audit guidelines coming in, and they are much, much more stringent, because previously our security, because we are like ISO 27000, was absolutely being accepted, but now the company has come up, that means their customer has come up with additional 40 terms, 40 new terms, which must be satisfied to demonstrate that we are compliant. So things are going to go change. Different weightage factors will be considered. The new relationship will be built. New technologies will come in play. Your skills will under some pressure, and it's going to happen that this will require overall changes to the contract duration, the pricing, the overall compliance norms. All of you undergo change. And I mean, obviously, this means because the delivery methodology has been changing, and definitely new strategies will be required. I mean, if you look before 7 years contract, 5 years contract, 10 years contract, they were very much in play. And I'm already being told that purchase organizations already have a clear mandate that no contract should be made now for more than 3 years, and preferably not more than 1 year. Except the most critical suppliers, no contract should be authorized to be delivered for more than 1 year. That means people are thinking about short-term strategies and long-term strategies, the way they want to deal with partners, the way they would want to wait and watch to see that the value is being delivered. It's all underway. I mean, it's like probably you are going to re-establish your relationship with the customer again. It's like almost facing a new customer of tomorrow when you are going to go back and face them. And that would require different methods in terms of expectation, understanding of the expectation, meeting those expectations, how to reflect the agreements in the contract, specifically with force major conditions, because that has been one of the most talk with the purchase organization. The BCP DRP will play a huge role, and your practices will become important. And that means again you have to baseline yourself, find out what are the obligations, and pass well the same journey again, so as to know where exactly we stand with this dimension. Now beyond this, probably there are many other directions, and I mean, in a way they could impact you directly. I mean, political factors, and if you just look at the currently different guidance given by different states or different IT organizations, and you realize what I'm saying. In few cases, it's 33% staff. In few cases, it's 50% staff. In few cases, you cannot, depending on the containment zone, you cannot operate. Or even the economical factors which will play a role. I mean, all the services which you consumed before, it's quite possible that, sorry, they can cost you more, and all the services which you were offering before, they may be paid less. I mean, that itself will be a dual sword, and it will cut you both ways. And it's already happening. I mean, without saying name of the product, but I'm saying the product which I should buy very regularly on a day-to-day, now it's almost costing in this current phase almost 1.5 times. And I'm paying it, of course, because it's a product which I need on a daily basis. But at the same time, this thing is happening all for goods, and it will happen for services too. Today also the services which are being delivered at ease without expectation of any extra payment are being expecting the extra payment for the additional work they have to do to deliver the same service. So it's going to have a lot of impact on the economic factor. Think about the social factor. I mean, just one of the organizations which I was talking to, they said, Sandeep, our transport requirement has suddenly doubled. In few cases, it is triple, just because for next 6 months, we have to make sure that the same amount of people travel is going to require double the number of buses. And we have, even with the 50% reduced staff also, we cannot do with the same amount of transport buses to send them home. So, I mean, there are factors which will continue to impact you. We talk about technology. I haven't really touched on the legal angle, but I'm pretty sure you're fairly aware the amount of legal complications which will arise, and specifically for the data across the border or the privacy issues and the concerns, they'll be very much more bigger now, because plenty of people are going to work from home and people are going to have plenty of concerns. So, in overall, there are going to be challenges in these dimensions, and I mean, to probably, I think, no free services would become the flavor of the day. People would want to pay only for what is kind of mandate, and we want to pay minimum. But at the same time, within the cost, of course, they wouldn't be having any compromise in the quality at the same time. Similarly, the way acceptable social behavior and communication guidance itself will change. I mean, people are so used to, I mean, go to office and spend 8 hours and work with the colleagues, spend time in the canteen. And one of the organizations which I'm working with, they're telling me that lunch time has been extended for now 2.5 hours, and it's been now it's been done in kind of small shifts, because we can't really increase the capacity of our canteen, but people have to be paid lunch, and the number of people can sit in the canteen is fixed, and that is now kind of staggered. So I'm saying the things will change. There will be a new normal in place. I'm not saying it's all that scary, because of course, I mean, with the you guys are watching news, right? Because let's say one of the countries is currently being blamed for the spread of the virus, maybe their work will come to us. And yeah, we have, like many other aspiring nations, have plenty of opportunities. I'm also one of the hopeful ones that yes, it may happen. But at the same time, it's not about just about a little amount of work. It's also about ability to service. It's very important to us to make sure that we are ready. First of all, we understand the change. We understand the depth of dimensions of each of these changes which is going to happen. We need to prepare for ourselves as individuals first. Then we need to contribute to the organization to make sure these changes can be adopted to. And it's important that, I mean, every organization, probably in some of these I see, would have to take a complete contextual understanding, know where they are today, what is their objective, what are the various obligations they have to manage, how are they going to satisfy the customers, how are they going to meet with the new defined value definition from the customer, how would their processes want to undergo change, what kind of changes may happen in people. Then probably also do quick pilot. I mean, today we're talking about agile. So it's very important to fail fast, fail forward, and fail first quickly. So it's important that we undertake those pilots and roll out and then continue to improve. I mean, the only way which I see is that unless and until you make a beginning, you wouldn't be able to start the path the way you want to go. And we'll be, of course, happy in case you want us to associate with any of these journeys in either the baselining, discovery, and going in either of the directions. So thank you so much for your time. I'd like to open the questions at this moment. We got about a few minutes left. So Sunil, over to you in case you have questions.
Yes, Sandeep. Yes, Sandeep. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so there are a few questions. So I'm collated and I'm asking you then. So one of the question
Sure.
talks about how does one do assessment and implementation of value stream and processes? This is part of your 4 steps that you said. So the question is, how do we do
Sure.
assessment and implementation of value stream? What is the way forward?
Sure, Sunil.
Okay,
In the meanwhile, may I
so
request you to
while
conduct the
Sandeep,
poll?
yeah, so while Sandeep is taking the answer, I would request all attendees to quickly do the poll. This is the last poll before we close. So while he's asking, just put one of the ticks there so we can collate your response. Thank you. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thanks, Sunil. So it's a good question. I mean, the fact is that the initial aspect of defining the value streams is first is to look at your current processes. I mean, currently I'm working with an organization where we have almost gone through 18 of their processes which are supporting the business services. And the step we started with is we actually conducted a design thinking workshop. Now, you may ask me to define the value stream, why you want to undergo design thinking, but you'll be very surprised when the customer is sitting in the same room and when we showed him that these are the 19 steps we take to follow this business process, and this is the way IT supports this. In no matter of time, the customer was able to say, out of these 19, these 6 are very critical to business. And whatever you do to make sure that they were fine, I'm very interested. The rest is okay, good to have, but in current situation, I'm willing to do any adjustment. But this 6, non-negotiable. And that's where we actually started our journey. So, I mean, you may not have to take under success workshop, but my logical thinking is if somebody wants to start redefining value in terms of assessment, it's very important to talk to your customers. It's very important to talk to your business. It's very important to understand what is the redefined value for him or her. Now, having said that, then it's very important to understand that definition of rest today, the way we do, I mean, of course, we know standard way of defining the rest in motion and transportation, and there are different ways of defining rest. You need to make sure that the non-value add activities need to be kind of moved out. Value adding has to be kept in, and they're going to change because of the definition of value itself. So what we did is, going back to the same example, these 18 processes were undertaken for the study. We took about, I think, 5.5 weeks to reduce most of the activity spans by 40%. When we rolled it out in 2 locations out of the 35 locations the customer has, which are in single country. And once the pilot was done, then the user feedback was taken, and also compliance and BCP BRP feedback was taken with the reduced number of steps. The kind of records which are created were acceptable, and then eventually they were rolled out. So I think that's the way probably one would want to go. One, talk to your customers, look at the redefined value, see if anything can be compressed and reduced, which will allow less number of people, better efficiency, better productivity, less cycle time, and then go for it. And then probably run out the pilot and then undertake the implementation. Today, we have rolled out almost about out of 18, 6 business processes so far, and other 12 are in the same generation now. Thank you, Sunil. I'm open for other questions.
Okay, thank you, Sandeep. There's another question which says, we talked about these 4 aspects. We talked about information technology, value stream, organization and people, and partner supply. So the question is,
Mhm.
where does lean IT play a role in the overall enterprise strategy?
Oh, I mean, as a matter of fact, if you ask me, Lean IT is the kind of it's kind of not just a framework, it's kind of set of tools. I mean, Lean actually is going to apply in all of them. It's not just going to apply in one. I mean, the reason is that if you just think about, let's take a dimension, not a value stream and processes. Take a dimension of information and technology, and you easily realize that when you think of automation, plenty of things are done in the way in automation can be done so as to reduce the number of steps where you apply lean or lean way of thinking. I mean, one of the things which is particularly in terms of organization people, I conducted two lean coaching trainings in last, and they of course were in the remote mode, just for the leadership because the traditional way of thinking of the current managers and leaders has to change. And to bring the change of the behavior and attitude in the first leadership and managers, it's important that they are not only accepting the principles of lean, but they're internalizing them and then they're encouraging them within the organization. So to answer your question in short, where does lean apply? And the answer is everywhere, in all those dimensions. I mean, I have structured my today's session. I mean, I'm sure you are familiar with ITR. I picked up those dimensions of ITR because I found it is the most relevant way to explain the impact in each direction. But there, I mean, the lean will get applied in each of these directions. Think about the partners and suppliers, and I can show you two ways to apply it. So to answer, yes, lean will apply everywhere, and so will agile way of thinking. Thank you, Sunil.
Okay, I have more questions only, but we're just picking up one more. It's talking about
Sure.
outsourcing. And it says in a normal, earlier people used to prefer complete outsourcing to one vendor, right? And
Mhm.
and there are some people who did multi-vendor, kind of contracting where we have more vendors. How do you feel the outsourcing will be of the future? Would there be more single vendor, multi-vendor, or it'll remain the same as of now?
Okay, so I have got a very practical answer to that because right now I'm helping an organization to redefine their outsourcing strategy, and it's very easy to see upfront they already do not want to put their all eggs in one basket. By the way, that organization has been using a lead supplier, kind of not a single vendor situation, but like 80% of the services coming from the lead supplier, which has, by the way, delivered excellent results in last 3 years. Still, they want to look for all the critical services, at least two capable suppliers. So I'm pretty sure from the outsourcing standpoint, there will be definitely a change in the mindset. Just to be very sure, I mean, I would have imagined if this these suppliers would have failed during the current situation, then they would have looked for somebody, and that would have been natural instinct. But in spite of they themselves saying that this guy did excellent, but they said that now organization mandate is that we must have more than one way to do it, and we don't want to really depend upon one person or one supplier. So now it is changing, and it is not just visible in that aspect, but also the level of detailing required. I mean, it was pretty much left to the lead supplier previously. How would they handle the sub suppliers and going down below? But now the level of details is being asked is phenomenal and it's very high. So the providing the way even the lead supplier or the multiple lead suppliers will be chosen, the level of scrutiny and the level of weightage which will be given for such outsourcing deal is going to be much, much higher. Thank you, Sunil. I hope I was able to answer that question.
Yes, Sandeep, thank you so much. As I said, we cannot take more because you already spilled over the time. So I'd like to thank all the participants for taking the time off during, for the webinar for the entire duration. I'll also like to thank my team, the whole marketing team, who made this possible, Neha and her team, and obviously Sandeep for sharing his experience. I really liked the presentation. I would have loved to have more time on this because this needs some deeper explanation. But I think in the short period, the amount of information that you shared was very, very interesting. So thank you, Sandeep, and thank you all. We will be sharing with you the details, and if you need any more information on the workshops or anything you can write to us and we will respond back. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you all. Bye-bye.